All right, hi everyone. Welcome to the Geeked Out Nation Mutant Roundtable Episode 2. Um, we did this about a month and a half ago now, where this group of Geeked Out Nation writers are just going to go around and talk about all things X-Men, X-Men comics, X-Men news, whatever it is, we're going to talk about it. Quick introductions. My name is Jess Camacho. I'm the comic editor of Geeked Out Nation. My favorite X-Men title right now is probably Uncanny X-Men. I think that's just like I like where that goes, and I especially love each character within that story, and especially everything that's happening with Dazzler. It's taking a brand new route for me. I love it. You guys want to go around and introduce yourselves and what your favorite X-Men title right now is?
Sure, I'll jump in. My name is Loudly Silent, Draven Katayama. My favorite X-Men title right now is still the adjectiveless X-Men, written by Brian Wood. What I like about it is that it is a smaller cast, and
You there?
Hi there.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go. My name is Shinobi, and my favorite X-Men series remains Uncanny X-Men. I like that to an extent it is self-contained. It gives a good focus to its characters. Of course, I like Cyclops, and I just like everything that's going on between Dazzler and just for the fact that they still remain dealing with the mutant issues that are going on around the world, especially with the new mutants that have popped up.
Awesome. Soup, you want to go for it?
Yes, my name is Soup Owens Fowler. I am a contributor to Geeked Out Nation, and I am a diehard X-Men fan. But right now, my favorite title is Magneto. Oh my God, that is such a great book. It is so dark and exactly where I feel that Magneto would go if he was given his own solo mission to go into the world to fight and revenge against mutant atrocities. And it is so good. And if you're not reading it, I don't know what is wrong with you.
I have to agree with this. I mean, everyone keeps on saying, why not give Magneto all his power back? Why not do this, give him his hair? And I'm like, no, it's fine the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. Magneto is. I mean, he seems to be playing a huge role in everything without it being so obvious. Especially with things coming up in the Marvel universe like Axis and Onslaught Red Skull
Yeah.
being one of the main villains. Yeah, so Magneto's gonna get involved in that somehow. All right, so I guess we should start up our discussion. Unfortunately, I think we lost Draven. I think he'll join back in, but we're gonna just keep trucking along, and when he comes back on, he'll just join the conversation. So our first topic, hopefully everyone had a chance to read it. If not, we'll be very non-spoilery. Storm number one.
Reddit.
Okay, so since the whole panel has read it, we are just gonna go ahead and spoil away. I mean, it's not the kind of issue that has like such heavy things that need to be spoiled, but we're gonna go into it. So Storm number one is out. Greg Pak writing it. Victor Ibanez doing art, who is someone I've never seen work from, and was really impressed with this book. So how do you guys feel about this? Did you think this was a good introduction to Storm's solo adventures? Do you feel like something could have been done more? How do you guys feel about this book?
I didn't think I would like it. I
Really?
thought, yeah, when they announced the idea, I was like, kind of like, yeah, I love Storm. I love her as part of the team, but I don't know if I can handle just another kind of AVX style, though, like that one A plus X style story, like with her in Wakanda talking to Black
Oh
Panther.
yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I can handle that. But the issue took me by surprise. It was exactly what it should have been, I felt. Dealing with focusing on her, dealing with the pressures at school, and dealing with the new generation of mutants is exactly what I wanted to see. And also dealing with changing geopolitical structures in her native country, and how it's more complex than just her coming in and saving the day. Despite the fact that that's her instinct, that's what she wants to do,
Mhm.
can't really do that without upsetting balances that she's not aware of. And I thought that was a very fascinating take. And her dealing with the mutant creep or flourish, depending on what her mood is, I thought
Mhm.
that was extremely well done. I thought that was the way it was handled, the arc of it, and how she came to realize how she was affecting this girl and her feelings. That was beautifully done.
Yep.
So I thought it was a home run.
All right, Adobe, how did you feel about it?
Oh, I liked it because for the same reason that I would like any of the other solo series going on right now. It's not as if we're just seeing Storm. We're seeing Storm as a person. You see all these titles that she named herself as in the beginning, and none of them really mean much anymore because this right here is Storm. And I like how at during special edition, what was his name? Greg Pak. Had a brain fart. He told us that he was doing his research on weather and whatnot, and he showed that as Sue said, through the way she paid attention to how her powers could affect the balance in other areas. If she were to just jump in and just spread that wave apart, it could go drown a whole bunch of other people. And aside from that, of course, the art was beautiful, and and again, I do think that it was the best move that she wasn't attached to a lot of the baggage that comes with the schism between the X-Men. That should have no part in it. So I'm glad that there was a lot more focus on her just being Storm, because one of the things that sets her apart from the others is that she doesn't let a mutant define her. She tries to be a hero to or just do the right thing in general. She doesn't try to go out there and say I'm an Avenger, I'm an X-Men, I'm a queen, goddess. She just tries to be herself.
She says, "I'm here to help."
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I really like this issue. In the last like maybe 5 or 6 years, I haven't really liked Storm all that much. I lost a lot of my fandom for her through a few different storylines that they did with her, and I feel like a lot of stuff involving her became less dependent on her as a character and more dependent on what she did with other people and how she got mixed up in relationships with Black Panther and this weird flirtation she's always had with Wolverine. And I think what this book did was it made me like her a little bit more again. And I feel like I'm gonna get back to the place where Storm's gonna be like very high up on my favorite female X characters. And she's playing the role of a hero here, which I like. It's not a questionable kind of thing. It's she is there to help. That is what she's gonna do. And she's in a way she's gonna be fighting whatever Hank and the rest of the Jean Grey school want her to do, and I like that because I feel like Storm always had a little bit of a rebel inside of her, and that hasn't really shown through the last few years. And now she's kind of taken on this elder statesperson sense about her. She's not a student. She's not just an X-Man. She's helping to run the school. She's helping mold the futures of a lot of these younger characters, and what she does matters more now than it ever did before. So for Greg Pak to be writing this where she's in Africa, she's home, and she's helping people, I just think that's brilliant. Um, I do wonder how much of an impact she'll have on the school going forward. She seems from the solicitations and things like that, it seems like she's really on her own. So I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts of how you think this series will affect Wolverine and the X-Men, being that she is such an integral part of the school.
I love the tease of the next issue. That cover alone was like, okay, I'm back. I got to come back for that with Calista.
Yeah.
That's it's kind of interesting to see the new Mohawk Storm facing the biggest demon from the old Mohawk Storm.
Yeah.
and that is something I'm on board with. Back when we loved her so much, and now we're touching back on that again. And as you said, she's coming into more of her own and becoming her own character that she wasn't able to be before. And yeah, I'm glad that this series is going forward. Anybody, bring them all in. I don't care.
How about you, Jadobi? Jadobi, you there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Oh, wait, thinking this still. I like the impact she can have on the school. It's definitely something you want to see because the one thing I've always liked about Uncanny is that even though they don't have a bunch of students, they still have students and there's still some sort of focus on them. With Wolverine and X-Men, it tends to be on and off, and they tend to focus on a lot of those students like Choir, ID, and a couple other that small group, and you don't really get to see the unique characters that can appear, the ones like Creep. So I think through this series, if we can see a lot more of the students that don't get that kind of exposed type of impact she can have on the school, because a lot of the others can depend on themselves, and they don't need others like Wolverine or Storm watching over them. But a lot of the other students need that guidance.
All right, and since we're on the topic of some of the younger X-Men, I guess we should segue into our next topic, and that will be the Battle of the Atom Evil Brotherhood, what they've come back to the past to do with the all-new X-Men, and that new couple that we've got of X-23 and Angel. So I guess what I want to ask you guys is, how do you feel about what's been going on, not only with the all-new X-Men in general, but what's happened with the new Evil Brotherhood, especially with young Charles Xavier. I personally think he's a very interesting villain, especially with the kind of power he has and the revelation that came that none of those people were really there on their own, that they were, controlled.
I think that I like everything that's going on with this new brother. The only thing that's ever bugged me was just the end of that one issue where they're defeated and they still give him.
Oh, yes.
They talk about how dangerous these two are, and you still give them a pen and paper. It's like, what are you doing?
Okay.
Words are just as dangerous as their powers.
That was, come on, guys, no.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that was weak.
Yeah, that was.
I'm just glad we finally got motivation. Thank you.
Yes.
Finally, resolution to the why are these people here? This doesn't make sense. Why is Molly Hayes here? What's going on? This doesn't make sense. We finally got a resolution to that, which is they didn't want to be here. Hey, I'm down with that. That's fine. It's just evil baby Charles and hate Rays, and not
Yeah.
as a villain. I hate him as a character. But whatever, those guys are behind it. So I'm actually satisfied with that conclusion of the arc, that they weren't doing it. I'm just kind of weirded out that those Brotherhood members were able to so easily go back to the future when that's a big issue in All New.
Sure.
We can't send them back for whatever reason.
Yes.
And then we have Chimera, who was stuck back to hunt down the Brotherhood, most of whom have been sent back to the future now.
Yes.
So she's been in the entire thing since Battle of the Atom, 5 panels in every book?
Yes.
It seems like a waste. I'd like to either A, see more, or B, send her back, because it doesn't make any sense. And now, if she has to stay, she's hunting 2 people. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that struck me as strange too, because her whole goal was to go out and find them, yet she doesn't find them, and she doesn't meet up with the all new X-Men team to help them fight
right.
Yep.
the evil brother. She's just, where is she? I mean, and I get that maybe Brian Michael Bendis doesn't have anything planned for her, but it's a giant hole in the story.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I also agree that I'm happy that we know why they were here and why that, because the Molly Hayes thing drove me crazy.
Me.
I just could not think of any possible way that she was here on her own free will.
No.
And it's nice that we got that. It also makes, now that we know that this is what little Xavier did, this to me makes him a very scary threat going forward. Because he basically can make you do whatever he wants. He has pretty much the same power his father did, but he's using it for evil. And
Yeah.
that's a scary thought, especially with things happening with the two factions not really working together. Um, just all the secrets that are going to come to light with the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. It's scary, and I do wonder where you go from here with this Charles Xavier.
I have a theory, and there's no basis to it whatsoever, but it makes sense as far as a whole story arc scenario.
Yeah.
The death of Charles Xavier and kind of solidified the schism that was already in place. So perhaps the threat of this new baby Xavier, who's just as powerful, only evil, could possibly mend the schism and bring all of the mutants back home because now they have such a huge threat that they need all hands on deck. And we've seen kind of seeds of the schism being mended so much. It's still there, but we've seen that, like, it wouldn't be implausible if they did it in the near future. And I think that may be the catalyst that kind of helped does it. I don't know, but that's my theory.
No, that's a good theory. I think that's a good theory because I do think that inevitably that is how the schism is going to be resolved, is that there's going to be a huge threat that's going to have to bring them all together. I thought it was going to be S.H.I.E.L.D., so I was off. I think I was predicting it to happen far too soon. I don't know. I think that was my problem with my whole theory. It's just too soon. Jidobi, how do you feel about it?
It's like that was what I thought as well. But the one thing I liked about seeing the one thing I liked about seeing the threat of this young Xavier was that one panel where Jean and the Stepford Cuckoos all fought back against him and broke his hold over the Brotherhood, because they all just look at him and they're just like, we don't like what you've become. We don't like what you do with your powers. We've seen your future, and your future is shit.
Oh, wasn't that powerful?
Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
I loved that moment.
That
It's
was so good.
Welcome back, Draven.
Welcome back.
like, because that's what you want to see.
So,
And
Draven, we are just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joey. Finish up your
oh yeah,
thought.
oh yeah, but and what I really love is that characters like Jean and the Stepford Cuckoos have always needed that push to tell them that abusing their powers is wrong. Emma wasn't always the best influence for those three, showing them the right way to use their powers. And Jean, no matter how much Kitty emphasized how wrong it is, she never really got the message, and this was their wake-up call.
I think it's because Kitty's not a psychic. And it's kind of one of those things where you can't relate to somebody who doesn't have the experiences you do. In the same vein of why would an addict listen to somebody who hasn't been to what they've been through? So their counselors have all been ex-addicts who recovered. So it's kind of like that thing where now that they've seen it, the Cuckoos have seen it in action. They're like, oh, now we understand everything that we were being told. And Jean Grey is the same way. Oh, this is what Professor Kitty was trying to tell me. If I don't control myself, I could end up like this asshole. So
So,
oh,
Draven, So, Draven, we're talking about all new X-Men and the future evil Brotherhood and Charles Xavier and him as a villain. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on what's been going on with that storyline, especially with what the future holds for the young Charles Xavier?
I think the reveal. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the reveal that Charles Xavier is the son of the Charles Xavier that we know. Um, I think there's going to be something in the next issue of Uncanny X-Men that really explains a lot more of that. Um, I think. I think that Charles Xavier knew about his son. There's always the possibility that he didn't know, but I think that he did know, and I think there's going to be something in the will about his son, and I think it's going to piss the X-Men off because they're going to be like, why didn't you tell us about this a long time ago? Um, and I think it could be a big shakeup. I think it will make those who have felt very loyal to Charles, especially Storm, they'll really question, who is this guy that for so long has always been our leader and our inspiration. So I think it will really shake up some trust issues among the X-Men, and they've already had their share of so many breaks in trust. I mean, Scott used to be one of their leaders, and now you know, he has his own separate school from the Jean Grey school. And Wolverine has been kind of out of the picture recently since losing his healing factor. The X-Men are just not stable right now, and with everything that the Will is going to reveal in the next issue, it could really drive people to really dislike each other even more than they already do.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, since we've brought that up, let's get into that. The first part of the last one, Testament of Charles Xavier, has come out. Uncanny X-Men 23. Unfortunately, not a whole lot was revealed, but they are now getting together to go over the will. She-Hulk has brought the will, which I love
I love
because
that.
I love that she's a lawyer. I love that they added her in there. So let's really get into that. I think Loudly Silent brought up some amazing points with Charles Xavier and his child. I think what we should think about is something that I've especially have been thinking about and talking to fans with. I am curious as to when exactly this will was written. Um,
Yeah.
because I'm wondering if this is something that has been slowly been plotted out through different writers since Avengers versus X-Men, and that this will was done afterwards to reflect what's going on now, or if this is the kind of thing where the will is not going to exactly reflect the storyline at this moment, where maybe because the thinking is maybe in this will it was done before, way before Avengers versus X-Men, and that in his will, because we're going to try to shake things up with the X-Men, he left the school to Scott. And given everything that's happened, that's not going to fly right with anybody at the Jean Grey school, given that he killed Charles Xavier. So my question to you guys is, do you think that's even a possibility, or do you feel like Charles Xavier is too smart to have not known something was going to happen? Because I do have this gut feeling that he did know about his son. But if he did know about his son, that means that this will is extremely recent before his death, and he knew something was going to happen with the Avengers versus X-Men storyline.
I'm guessing that the will is old. I'm guessing that the will um, does have a major inheritance for Scott. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Charles wants Scott to share the Jean Grey School leadership with Storm or with Logan or with someone else, maybe Kitty. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't even know. It's possible that Charles Xavier might have known about his son Xavier, but might have intentionally given him like a much smaller portion of the inheritance. It's hard to know.
Well, I think that the will could be old but revised along the way as things change. Because one thing Chuck knew is that change happens every day.
Uh-huh.
He knows his students well enough to know that anything could happen at any time. So I think that he kind of revised it as he went along. And if anybody remembers what was going down right with him during Avengers versus X-Men, and right before that, he was not in a great place with the X-Men as a whole anyway at that point. He was
Mhm.
actually trying to redeem himself from his mistakes, and one of the biggest things he was doing immediately was trying to reconcile with his son, Legion, David Haller, excuse me, pardon me, David Haller, he doesn't like being called Legion, but he was trying to do that, and he was just reaching out to the X-Men, like Wolverine the X-Men issue 1, he visited the school and was giving Logan his blessing and showing him around. So I think that he knew the way the wind was going at that time, and if he had a will, he kind of understood how it would go down with them. You know, I mean, the schism happened at that point, so he knew that Wolverine and Scott were divided at that point. And he knew that anything that he did in that will, in case he were to die, would affect that relationship.
Can
So,
can you guys recap for me what's the current status of David Haller? Because I didn't read X-Men Legacy, so I don't know what his current status is.
he never existed. He never happened. He sacrificed his entire reality of himself and the memory of him, everything he's ever been through,
Mhm.
and because if he didn't, then the future of the world ending because of him would happen, or at least he felt. And he felt instead of do that, he is going to be the hero that nobody will ever recognize
Yep.
and himself from existence. So he's gone.
So it's
Yeah, little Xavier is the only one left, really.
Wow.
Nobody even knew who he was.
Nope. It's very sad, actually. If you do get a chance to read the whole run, it's extremely sad at the end.
how
Um,
does Moira fit into the equation? Do you guys think she has any role in the will?
This is my thing. When we saw young Xavier being born, Mystique was under the guise of Moira McTaggart.
Right.
So I'm wondering if Xavier thinks he had a child with Moira McTaggart.
It's possible.
It would be a huge plot hole in my view, because
too.
he would know Mystique.
Right. I mean, we're talking about the most powerful telepath in history of mutants.
Yeah.
How could he not know if he was having a kid with Mystique?
I just feel though that might be something that happens, given we were talking about Chimera and how she just like fell off everything, yet there's just all this traveling back and forth and she's nowhere involved in any of it, and that's a major plot hole. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that we see happen.
Actually, Chimera has shown up a lot in the past two issues of Adjectiveless X-Men. Chimera actually gave the X-Men team there, Rachel Gray, Storm, Psylocke, Jubilee, and Monet. Chimera actually gave them strategy and info on the villain that they're fighting there, the Future.
Mhm.
So Chimera's still in the equation, but I agree. She hasn't shown up in the Bendis books at all. And we still don't know really how Molly Hayes, Deadpool, and Ice Hulk got involved. We just know that somewhere along the line, young Charles Xavier roped them in. And it would be curious to know how much of the future Brotherhood did Charles know about. He always had a way of knowing, some things that were going to happen in the future. What if he knew about everything that his son Charles Xavier was going to do in the future?
Yeah, that's what strikes me as the most interesting thing about this entire storyline, is because Charles Xavier has had a tendency in the past to know things, or at least have a hunch that something was going to happen. And I'm very interested to see if he knew all these things. I especially am curious because this whole Mystique thing it's just so crazy to me that she has a kid with both Wolverine and Charles Xavier. So I am very curious to see if this will at all give some insight into how both of those affairs have happened and how both of those kids are now here and are causing mayhem for everyone.
Those are the two characters who you would think would understand Mystique the most. One, you have
Yeah.
to read the mind, and then you have Wolverine, who should be able to smell the scent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they do not have good feelings towards her. So what caused them to even have an affair, let alone have kids with this woman? Janobi, how do you feel over there about all of this?
It drives me crazy.
I,
I mean, I have to say, she gave birth to two assholes. You know?
But she also gave birth
Nightcrawler,
to Nightcrawler.
yeah, Nightcrawler doesn't make up for it.
you got the good one out of the way first.
she got the good one out of the way, and then all she was left was the spoils.
Where do you think the
It's
will's
like I was
going?
like, okay, so that sperm won.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is that just for the fact that this is happening now, and we don't know what it is that young Xavier sent himself after that last fight in All New X-Men. So for all we know, the will could easily have been lost. Like probably no one would have even found it, and most likely he knew what was in the will. Probably told himself to go find it, put it on, found someone to leave it on She-Hulk's desk. She-Hulk made her way to the academy. I mean, to the school, and boom.
That is an extremely important point and an important detail. Who left
Or
Hope
did
on
it
someone's desk?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, how do we
yeah.
even know that it's the real Will? I mean, what if this is all a ruse from the young Charles Xavier or from Ray's? We honestly don't know. I
I
mean,
was
it's possible though that Charles entrusted the will years ago to She-Hulk or to some other lawyer. Um, but I'm gonna throw a theory out there. I think Mystique is in the will, and I think that Charles knew all along that he was gonna leave something to Mystique. I think there's a part of Charles that always hoped that Mystique would always come back to the good side permanently. I think he always saw a lot of potential in her. He always knew that she was one of the most experienced and powerful mutants on the planet, and I think he wants her back in the fold.
Yes.
And we already know that after the death of Wolverine, Mystique is going to be one of the characters who's going to be in the series The Logan Legacy. Um,
Yeah.
and even in Amazing X-Men, and in the Bendis universe, it seems like a lot of the villains are all being run behind the scenes by Mystique. So I think Bendis and all the X-Men writers are going to have a lot going on for Mystique in the next year.
And I want to present this theory too because I think what you're saying is very very important when it comes to Mystique. The Last Will and Testament of Charles Xavier's storyline is technically an original sin tie-in. Original sin tie-ins have been retcons to the original origins of many different characters. They've either been completely changing things or adding a little detail to make it more complicated. Now, Brian Michael Bendis has been very vocal about how much he enjoyed X-Men Days of Future Past. So, my theory is now, is it possible that since the original Sin tie-ins have been retcons or added details, is it possible that we are going to see the untold truth of Mystique and that she and Charles Xavier shared the same kind of relationship as children or teenagers that we saw in the movie universe? Because I personally think that made Mystique a very interesting character given the way the movie universe went. And if that was brought into the books, I think that would completely shatter everything that's been known about the X-Men universe when it comes to Mystique. As I'm trying to think more in an origin type of sense, since that's been what Original Sin has done. Like this week we saw the whole thing with Spider-Man. We've seen what happened with Thor. We've seen what happened with Hulk and Iron Man. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that we're going to see something that major.
how much of his childhood has been explored in the comics,
I think we've only seen things that involved Sabretooth. I
right?
don't think we've seen anything else. I could be mistaken. But I think the only thing at least that I remember ever reading about his childhood is involving Sabretooth.
I don't really recall any particular details given about Professor X's childhood at all. So that's an extremely plausible theory.
You know,
Why?
it's interesting. I Yeah, I love the relationship between Charles Xavier and Mystique in the movies,
Yes.
and I think there is so much potential for great comic stories in that relationship. And I agree. I think that they should do some more origins tales of Charles Xavier and even like the property, like the Jean Grey School, what was the
Hmm.
Charles Xavier School? We don't know much about the history of that property, the Westchester area. We do know the address, Grey Malkin Lane, that's named after one of Charles's ancestors, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And actually, I just rewatched X-Men First Class recently, and when he takes Havoc down into the bunker, he mentions that his stepfather built it for like World War II or something. Um, and you know, in the comics, we never hear anything about Charles Xavier's stepfather. We need to hear these stories. I think there's a lot that could be written here.
Yeah, I think like as much as we want to see some stuff get shaken up with the like who's going to run the school and things like that, I think because this is also working as an original sin tie-in, that we're going to see something very major involving the origin of someone in order to shake things up. And I really wouldn't be surprised if that gets brought in from the movie universe over into the comic universe. It's just it when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense given that she had a child with him. You're not gonna just that's just not gonna happen between those two characters without something else working for it. I'm Jadobi. What do you think about these theories in general, or do you have your own, or?
The only thing that kind of kills me here is that Mystique has never exactly had she's never had a definite age.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Yeah.
that. So like that's the only thing that would kind of that would make me that would come into question for me if this happened,
Hmm.
because there are so many things where you just see her in different time periods, and it's like, and I don't know. I mean, like maybe even when you think she's a kid, maybe she's really a little bit older, and I just don't know. Maybe she just ages. Actually, I don't know. It just throws you for a loop. Everything that has to do with her just always. I mean, I guess you could make it happen and just see where that goes, but I don't know. It could be interesting.
I mean, I only think of something like that happening because of how vocal Bendis has been about how much he really enjoyed that movie and the chances it took and how much it changed the original Days of Future Past story. I don't know. I think we're in for something big. I believe 24 comes out this week, correct? This coming Wednesday. So we're in for something huge, most definitely. You guys have any other thoughts on this?
If that's the way that it goes down, Bleeding Cool could suck it. You said it first, right?
I did, yes.
Absolutely. Because it's so plausible that I'm calling it right now. Jessica?
I do have one prediction for the Bendis books. I think we're gonna see less of Kitty at the new Xavier Institute with Cyclops' clan. I think Kitty needs to do some soul searching. We know that she's gonna show up in the Legendary Star-Lord books. It's
Mhm.
already been shown that she's gonna be in Legendary Star-Lord #3. She's gonna probably be, doing some space adventures, I
I love
think,
Kitty
with
in
Peter
space.
Quill. So so I think we're gonna see some more Kitty and Peter Quill adventures, and I think she might not be showing up in the Bendis books as much. That's just a minor prediction.
Well, Marvel has said when they made all these announcements for all these books that they were already planning on another like 10 new books on top of what they've got going now, and I think that a Kitty Pryde book might be a realistic idea, and
I
I
think that
do
would be
think
awesome.
yes, and I think Soup's title Kitty in Space would be perfect.
Oh, I want
Kitty
this book so
Kitty in
bad.
Space.
I want
Kitty
Kitty
in
in space.
Space.
I want a Gamora and Angela BFF book. I need it in real life right now.
I do enjoy the idea of Kitty in space. Not, doing the soul searching and stuff, but in space.
Now, this is out there, but I do have to ask: does anyone here read Dupe?
Yeah.
No, I do not. I
No.
haven't. Do you have any thoughts on it, Adobe?
I haven't read it either.
Oh.
I read
Um, can we
you.
take a quick second to talk about Magneto? Do you guys have any thoughts on
Yeah, yeah,
Magneto?
yeah.
No, I've got no thoughts on Magneto.
He's got nothing. We
Are you
can't talk.
serious?
No, he's
Serious. That book is so fantastic.
It is good. Yeah.
It
If
is.
you are listening to this podcast and you have not been following Magneto, go like run, do not walk to your local comic store and pick up like the last 3 issues of Magneto. Magneto has been
yeah,
killing
yeah,
it every single issue, every page.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
The way I describe it to people who have never read it, and I will describe it this way in my review of the last issue. Imagine Magneto's Argentinian adventures from X-Men First Class. Make
Yes.
it darker and give him the focus. And there's your title. It is
Yep.
awesome. And like Jadobi was saying, I love the fact that one, his powers are broken, so he has to improvise and come up with new, more sinister, weird power. And number two, I love Bald Magneto. Come on, it looks so great. I was honoring his friend who died, and he looks just fantastic with it.
He
But
does.
oh man, that book! It feels like a Vertigo book from the '90s. It is
Does.
It
spot
it
on.
feels like a Max book. It
It
like it
does.
has
Yeah.
it has the same flavor as Wolverine Max.
I just think that overall, compared to some of the Max books that we've had in recent years, the writing is just so top
And I
notch. Like the scripting, it's so perfect.
We got to see Predator X's again. When was the
Yes.
last time we saw?
Yes.
Oh man, when they popped up on the page, I was like, "Oh my god, this is everything!" But it doesn't. But it does because they're still around.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. And then that guy who was in charge of the place, he put the needle in his eye.
Oh,
That
That
was
that made me cringe.
see, fans. Well, there are certain portions of the fan base who are like, "Bring back all his power so he can be godlike Magneto again." If he was godlike Magneto, he wouldn't have even stepped foot in that place. He would have lifted it up and thrown it all into space. That's not what I want to see. I want
Yeah.
to see needle in the eye.
Yeah. Needle in the eye is awesome.
Oh, love it. Favorite book right now in the Filthy Mutant universe.
Yes.
Speaking of another character who lost their powers, I've been thinking a lot about Emma Frost, and I've been really wondering why she is choosing to stay with Scott's school. I mean, I know that she feels connected to magic and she feels connected to the Stepford Cuckoos, but do you guys have any thoughts on that? I mean, here's somebody who has been burned by Scott time and time again, and yet she still sticks around. Any thoughts?
I know Jadobi wanted us to bring this up with Eva, and I have a feeling that Eva is going to be what makes Emma go away. I think she's still holding on to some things that are not there anymore, and I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a big character drama thing, and it's going to be Eva and Scott having a little something on going on, and then Emma's just that's going to be what sends Emma away, because I do think that despite how tough she wants to be, I still think that she's so far in love with Scott that that's what really keeps her there. I don't even think it's the Cuckoos anymore. I think that there's just this connection she has with Scott that's keeping her around. And once, I mean, Eva's aging. I don't think that's by accident. To be honest, I don't think that's an
I don't
accident.
like it though. I mean, I
Oh, I
think
don't either.
yeah,
I like it.
I think Eva, like she has such a cool power set. She probably has the coolest power sets of any of the new gang. Benjamin Deeds, Christopher Muse. Eva's power set is so cool, and she's so young. I mean, in one of the early issues, they showed her like giving a presentation in class talking about how she wanted to be like Captain America.
Mhm.
She's probably like 15. And I think if a real romance happened between her and Scott, it would just ruin any credibility Scott has as a leader. because he would clearly be taking advantage of that situation.
Mhm.
So that would just be a disappointment to see. I hope that Bendis doesn't go in that direction.
It would be the new version of Professor X having a crush on Jean Grey from the 60s.
That storyline with the person aging up, that's been done. Green
Yeah.
Lantern did it very long time ago. And it was weird then. It's
Yeah.
weird
They also
now.
had Gabriel. You also had
Yeah.
Gabriel with the 5 lights.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad that Jamie Madrox is happy, but Layla Miller was still kind of weird.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 I mean, well, I do like that they found that with the age, we finally got an explanation of her powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing with Emma Frost, I
Well,
just think there's,
not technically.
yeah. I just think the whole thing with Emma Frost that there's just I think Scott is really what's keeping her there, and I think it's on surface it seems kind of sweet, but I think that it's a reflection of how lost she actually feels. I don't think she's been herself in many years, but I think it's definitely interesting to see where she's going to end up in the long run, given things that have happened and Jean's little Jean is around and Eva is aging up all of a sudden. It's very odd. It's very odd. I don't know. Where do you Loudly Silent? Where do you think she's gonna end up? Since you brought it
Honestly,
up.
I mean, I think that Bendis will keep her in the new Xavier Institute with Scott. But if we could just, imagine and dream, I think what would be way cooler is what if she became like the string puller for other Marvel characters like Kingpin, even Mystique. Like I feel like her history as running the Hellfire Club, she would be so good at being kind of a morally ambiguous leader of criminals and superpowered people. I think there's so many directions you could go with Emma Frost.
I would.
Um,
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Soup.
I would hate that because I think that she had such a great redemption arc over years and years and years that she
Yeah.
deserves to be a hero. Finally, she's working with the Avengers right now on Original Sin.
Yeah.
Other
That's
thing,
true.
her powers are still kind of weird, but they're kind of back there, but they're not back here. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the response to the question of why she's sticking around the school. And I think that out of all the reasons given, I have the most faith in her because my reason of thinking is that she really does want to help mutant kind. And the only place that she sees for somebody like herself who's tarnished and dirty, especially after the whole Phoenix 5 business, is with the other outcasted, tarnished, dirty people, which is Scott and his crew, you
Right.
know. And she does love teaching. That has been a part of her character for since she's been around. Is she does love teaching the new era of students. And since she can't go to the Jean Grey school and teach them, she's going to have to stay where she can be of the most use. And that's always where I felt she was going with that. As far as whether she'll stay or not, that does remain to be seen because these are very valid points and she could be driven away. But I don't think that she'll be driven so far away where she's going to that Avengers undercover nation and gonna
Right.
shop there. I think she'll still do everything in her power wherever she's at to advance the cause of mutant kind, which is her passion. So she loves Scott even still, and she may be kind of hanging around because she wants to see if there's something there. But I believe that she's evolved past the point where that's her only reason.
I agree. I think Uncanny X-Men number 15 was really awesome when Emma kind of took the girls out for a ladies' night.
Love that.
That was a
That was a
really
fun.
fun
That was a
issue.
fun issue. Yeah.
That was probably one of the best issues of this entire volume, just for being something different, for kind of taking a break from the main story. It would be nice to see more interactions between Emma and the rest of the girls.
Also, the issue where she helped Benjamin Deeds realize his full potential.
Yes, that
That
was really good.
was one of my favorite issues of this run. I think that kind of exemplifies everything about her and what she's trying to do for the race. While it is still sneaky and still underhanded, at the same time, she is doing everything in her power to help. She wants to help this guy and she made him realize that he has one of the coolest and most powerful power sets if he used it right. And I
I
love
th-
that.
I think it's worth noting too that Emma Frost has experience in teaching and running a school, and I think maybe a long shot here with this will is that she will be left with the school.
Ooh.
Because that does tie into such a large part of her history is running a school, and that was a disaster. And maybe Charles Xavier saw something in her that he felt she would be worthy of taking the school over. And I also think that would be almost a way of, instead of having Cyclops and Wolverine work together, which is the predictable version, or Cyclops and Storm having to work together, why not just give the school to somebody he may have thought was a almost almost an impartial third party? And I say almost impartial because despite her relationship with Scott, if she had that kind of power, I still think she would do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
So, so her being with Scott wouldn't affect what she actually ends up doing with the school. I think that's just another thing to throw out there when it comes to her in this will. Because whatever this is, Brian Michael Bendis has promised that this is going to be a very major, significant event in the X-Men history. And I do trust to believe that because of the original Sin tie-in. They've all been huge. There hasn't been a small tie-in yet. They have all had major things happen in them, and there's still a bunch more to come. So I don't know. I just think that's a possibility. What do you think, Jadobi?
I think that Emma will definitely stay for a while. I mean, even though she doesn't have anywhere to go, aside from whatever flirtations going on with Eva, she doesn't. Even though her reputation is tarnished, that still doesn't stop her from being that type of person who goes up to the Avengers and tells them where they went wrong, because that time when they were allowing Eva to go see her parents, she was also, while Scott was giving his little speech, she was there also speaking her mind against the Avengers as well. She says what she has to, and the fact of the matter is, she's just like Scott. She hasn't been proven wrong. She's doing her thing. She's being a teacher. She's being real to herself. Maybe not about her emotions, but about her intentions, as an X-Men and as a mutant.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's
So,
why.
oh yeah, go ahead.
That's it. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Lally Silent, do you have anything else you want to add to this before we move on to the next topic?
No, let's move on.
Oh no, no,
Okay.
actually,
So the last.
All
Oh,
right.
go ahead. Go
I got one more
ahead.
thing to say. Well, let's talk about Magic's future for a second. Am I the only one who thinks that she should be the next Sorcerer Supreme?
No.
Yes, I agree. I think she should, but I mean, I think like Wiccan would also be, obviously really good in that role. And we've already seen that in Battle of the Atom. But yes, we've seen Magic get training with Doctor Strange. You guys remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
That was in Uncanny X-Men issues 5 through 7. And it seems like Magic is still um, learning what her powers are and her connection with um, the Dark Force, right?
Dark
Yeah.
time.
Dark Child.
Yeah, I don't know if I
Mhm.
see that happening anytime soon, given what we're about to talk about now, but I think at some point that is a possible thing that could happen. When it comes to magic, I think anything's really possible with her since she is such a layered and very interesting character in her own right. So since we're on that, I guess I'll bring this up now. So Marvel made a ton of announcements recently, and since it's San Diego Comic-Con, they're going to be making a lot more soon. But for right now, what we have is after the Thor news, after the Captain America news, after the Iron Man news, they also announced their new lineup for the Avengers. And I think it's interesting to note who the team is, so I'll read it out loud. It's Medusa, Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Winter Soldier, Angela, the new Thor, Sam Wilson as Captain America, Inferno, and Deathlock. I think it's worth noting that the only mutant on there is Scarlet Witch, and she's not really in her history. She's not really an X-Man. She's more of an Avenger than anything else.
Hmm.
So I think it's worth noting that the new Avengers lineup has no mutants, no Wolverines shoehorned in there, no Storm, who are the two that are usually pushed into an Avengers group to give mutants some representation. They're not
Right.
in here, so it looks like the future of the Marvel Universe is at least the Avengers area of it, which is usually the flagship title. They are off to the side. They are not in the new Avengers. They are doing their own thing, and there's no word yet as to whether or not Uncanny Avengers is ending or not. But I would not think it a bad idea to speculate that it is ending, given what's going to happen with the Axis event.
Right.
Um, so how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like it's slighting the X-Men in any way that they're not involved in the Avengers at all, or do you feel like this is actually better for them?
The Avengers don't care what happens to mutants.
This is true. This is
That
very
that
true.
is true
It's
in many
very true.
ways.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go back to the status quo of Avengers here, X-Men over here.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm honestly good with that. Because
it should be that way.
it should. I remember before AVX happened and everything where they're going to integrate the two teams and they're like, we were tired of having them separate. Let's integrate them. I'm like, I don't know about this. I'll give it a go. I'll give it a try, see how it does.
Hmm.
I don't know about this. And now we saw how that happened and went around. I don't think that the experiment worked. I mean, the exception of Cannonball and Sunspot on the Avengers, that was great and
Yeah.
inspiring, and that was fantastic. But otherwise, I'm sorry, I dropped Uncanny Avengers. I did.
Yeah, I did too. I did too.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I haven't been following it either.
I did.
Um, I do have to say, go ahead, Jadobi.
Oh no, I was just saying I did. I dropped it as well.
Yeah, I don't think it worked. And separating them again would be good for us.
So here's my thoughts. I think it's kind of a bummer that that there isn't a mutant in the Avengers Now announcement for the fall. Just because, the mutants are such a huge part of the Marvel universe. We would expect to see them, but what we see here with Inferno and Medusa is that really Marvel is wanting to amp up the focus on the Inhumans, um,
Bye.
we've known about this for over a year. We saw this
Yeah.
coming, but I still don't really know what the hook is with the Inhumans. I never read the old books with Black Bolt and Medusa, and I'm not as familiar with with their storylines. But I feel like, other than obviously having the rights to use them in
Yeah.
the MCU, I don't know what the hook is. The mutants are and have always been the perfect minority metaphor that we all identify with, and that's what's so personal and endearing about the X-Men. We care about them because we understand the minority metaphor. The
Yeah.
Inhumans sort of have that, but not really. Also, the focus on Deathlock, it seems like it's primarily because of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It seems kind of like a strange choice to bring back Deathlock into a solo title. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that.
It is. The thing with the Inhumans is what I feel what made them kind of cool is that they had the abilities of mutants, but they were very alien. So everything they did was so far out there. It was very science fiction. It didn't really have a lot of social commentary that the X-Men come with, and and how involved in current affairs the X-Men have always been, and how human the X-Men are, and how
Right.
you can relate to their things. The thing with the Inhumans is the only reason they're getting this push is because of cinematic universe. They're not allowed to mention mutants, so what they're doing is, in essence, is making the Inhumans the movie Mutants.
Right.
And Infinity did a lot of this as well, where they had the Terrigen Mist bomb go off over Manhattan, making a lot of humans Inhumans
Right.
to try to make that a thing. But I don't really have an issue with this being how it is. I know the only reason they were integrated to begin with is because a lot of fans used to complain during big events. Well, what are the X-Men doing? What are they doing over here? Like, aren't they
Right.
involved? And so they tried to integrate them more. And my problem with it is that Uncanny Avengers felt too much like an Avengers book and did not have enough of the X-Men flavor for me to like it.
Hmm.
I think the story they did, like the story they're still doing, is so huge, and it's not bad. It's just it's not an X-Men story, and that really is where I think that falls apart. Is that it doesn't really reflect the X-Men. But I think it's fine that they're separate. I think it ties into a lot of what the X-Men are anyway. They are their own society pretty much. They're looked down upon by everybody else. So they've created their own world. Heroes, villains, they are their own universe in itself. So I don't really have a problem with them doing this. I know that there are fans who are not happy because, they read Avengers books and they always want to know what the mutants are doing. Well, my suggestion at this point is buy an X-Men book instead. You're not wasting the money. I mean, even if you only read one of them, you read either All New X-Men or Uncanny X-Men, you're going to be doing just fine on what the mutants are doing.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of Inhumans. I'm not.
There.
I love Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
She's the best thing to come out of it.
But
Really.
that I'm good there, but everything else, I read their spin-off stories a little bit, and it just seems to me like they're trying so hard to get the Inhuman push out there, but it's not resonating. It's not resonating with people. Shouldn't there have been, like, after Infinity, the big Inhuman storyline that was supposed to happen, and just kind of went, except
Right.
I feel like that's still going on, though. I think the second issue came out, but I don't remember anyone talking about it. It's honestly just a push that's coming out of the cinematic universe, and I think that points to a bigger problem when it comes to comic readers. Comic readers are comic readers first. So if we
Yes.
just don't like the Inhumans, we're not going to like the Inhumans. You can put them in as many movies as you want, we're still not going to like them.
Right.
watch the movie and maybe even like the movie. Like, that's a good movie. I appreciate that movie. I'm not buying the comic book. You know?
Exactly. It's a
like-
very odd decision.
Yeah. It's like that push that they gave the Inhumans, that they're trying to give the Inhumans later, that should have happened at first. Like as I even said when they showed that promotional image, Medusa finally got an updated costume. That costume should
Yeah.
have been seen almost a year ago. I don't know why she would just get that costume now. She while the Inhumans series started, it shouldn't have came later. Like, the only really good thing that's come out of the Inhumans, aside from Kamala, is just for the fact that a lot of things explained, like these random new villains and stuff coming out. They're Inhumans. That's okay, but that's really as far as it goes. You get a couple bad guys here and there to punch that want to abuse their abilities as an Inhuman, but that's really as far as it goes, especially when they could be doing the same thing with all these new mutants in the world.
I gotta say that even though we don't see any mutants in Avengers now, I'm still really excited for the fall. I am really stoked that Dazzler is done with S.H.I.E.L.D., that she is just gonna be with the X-Men, and that's it. She's gonna, refigure out her life, where to go from here. I'm really stoked that Firestar, who is a former Avenger, that she is with Amazing X-Men. I think that has a lot of potential. She's somebody who is newer to the X-fold, and she has a really cool power set. She has a flirtatious relationship with Bobby. They can do a lot with Firestar. And also North Star, I mean, here's somebody that is just a really awesome character that he, got married in the comics a couple years ago. Like, we need a lot more stories with North Star. I think I'm really hoping that Christopher Yost just really keeps bringing really good stories to Amazing X-Men.
Yeah, I think Dazzler is definitely worth bringing up, especially with the fall line of Marvel books that are going to be coming out. Original Sin's obviously going to change a lot of things for everyone, including the X-Men, and I think that that's going to be a nice place for a lot of new beginnings to start.
Mhm.
And Jadobi has brought this up before, and I have to agree with it. A mini series involving Dazzler looking for her Mystique would be an amazing way to tie up her story and set the stage for her going forward. I just it doesn't even need to be an ongoing. It just because I don't know how much attention can really be paid to her thing with Mystique within the pages of Uncanny X-Men. I don't know if that's a plausible thing at this point because it kind of is her battle and her battle alone. As terrible as that sounds, I just don't see the rest of that team caring enough to do the, do
You
this all
might
together.
not be alone. You might be like, yeah, okay, let's do this.
Yeah,
Magneto might.
Magneto might, and I have this sneaking suspicion that if Magneto's getting a friend anytime soon,
Uh-huh.
it would be
It would be
Dazzler.
Dazzler. Yeah,
Oh,
that would be awesome to see.
I love her new look so much. It is
Oh yeah,
perfect on every level. And I know that there's been a lot of hate. And I've said this before. I will defend that new look against all comers at any point in time. It is
it makes
perfect.
sense. It makes
It
sense. I
does.
mean,
Yeah,
she
it
can't
does.
be in she's not gonna have the blue eyeshadow and pretty white disco outfit. She's not in that place. She's
Yeah.
She's pissed.
angry. She's angry, so she cut off her hair and she's gonna look a
Yeah.
little bit edgier. It might not last forever, you know. I mean, she's angry.
But her power is transferring sound into light, and she focused that on music, and that's
Yeah,
why she was rock star and disco star and did that. Imagine the music she's getting a hold of now to
yeah,
reflect that attitude. That's
yeah.
what I want to like go on a Bendis's Tumblr like, what's Dazzler listening to? I need to
And,
know.
you know,
Yeah.
Dazzler's going on a punk rock binge, ready to chop Mystique's head off.
Even industrial like
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
nails
yeah,
puppy style. I'm like,
yeah.
You could only imagine. Yeah.
ooh.
I mean, I was wondering just what she was listening to that when she was with Magic, Emma, and Magneto looking for Misty, she just had that huge burst. It was
Oh,
like, whoa.
oh yeah.
You know,
Oh,
someone went blind.
she's
Yeah.
a mega level mutant. She is not somebody to be trifled with, and somebody trifled with her. So yes, if that is
Yeah.
the thing, a Dazzler mini Get Mystique 2 Electric Boogaloo, I'm all
Yeah. I would be really excited for that series. I think the progression with her character is so it's natural. I
for.
mean, she's dealing with some serious stuff. I mean, she was abducted and her life was taken over and everything she had built up for herself, at least the good stuff she thought she had built up with Shield doesn't even matter anymore, and it's not like Maria Hill cared.
Right.
No,
And what you have to admire
It's
is
very heartbreaking, and it's a
yeah.
nice story.
And what you
No, go
have to
ahead.
admire, what you have to admire is the fact that this was her breaking point, and this was someone who was lost, skipping dimensions, and almost getting stuck in the AOA universe and dying.
right? She was super perky then. No,
I do think Dazzler has a lot to offer the new crop of students at the new Xavier Institute. Benjamin Deeds, Christopher Muse, Eva, and Gold Balls, and
Jack.
yeah, Hijack. Like, Dazzler has so much experience being an X-Men. She's fought against the biggest baddies in the Marvel Universe. She's been around for a long time. And she's a strong personality. She's not gonna let Scott or Emma throw her around. And it's gonna be really fun to see her stick with that team.
She may have to mellow a little bit before the students can find her approachable, because I'm sure right now she's kind of freaky scary.
That's true.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's just so sad to see her like this because she is usually such a happy character, and that's always attracted me to Dazzler is like no matter what is going on, she has got her disco and she is on that stage and it is okay. And now
Yep.
it's just like Dazzler, I just want to give you a hug. Like you're not doing okay.
Hmm.
At least
This
go
is so interesting.
take it off.
Yeah.
I
All
go
right.
dancing with Dazzler any day of the week.
I don't think there's many people who would deny her that, especially angry Dazzler who is ready to hurt some people.
Please see some play from Angry Dazzler. Somebody do that. I want to see that.
I mean, it was funny enough. It was funny enough when I think was it Mindy or Celeste was on there like, so what are we gonna do with the former pop star, disco star, whatever, that's in
In
our
our
bathroom
bathroom.
having a mental breakdown?
Yes, that was really good. And don't forget when Scott was like, "Should I go talk to her?" And Emma and Magic are like, "No, definitely way bad idea."
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Scott is really the kind of person that you'd want to have help you out with the situation in general.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's the best person to turn to for that.
That was actually a great scene on several different levels because I know don't talk to her, but if you really want somebody to talk to, how about talking to that guy who you really fucked over? Come
Yeah,
yeah,
on.
right?
that was a good
Talk to
scene.
him. Who
I
actually, Hijack is probably my favorite of all the new power sets. I love, like, he's like a more evolved Magneto.
Yeah.
right.
So I like him a lot. I want to see him fleshed out more as a person.
When he first appeared, I was kind of like, that's kind of cheesy until I really thought about it, and it's like, imagine a mutant who can turn every car he sees into Christine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. And then what he did with the helicarrier. Okay,
that
done.
was incredible.
Of course. Of course.
And I know I had mentioned this before that I kind of wanted, if Hijack was going to be kicked off of the Uncanny team for good, I kind of wanted him to track down Magneto and just let the two of them just destroy everything.
That would be amazing.
Hmm.
I
Magneto, Hijack, and Evil Dazzler together on a road trip across country, looking for Mystique and vengeancing mutants.
That's a
Oh, geez.
great book. That'd be a fantastic movie as well.
Oh,
I love that.
I do think going into this fall, I feel like there's been so many major events going on in the Marvel Universe and in the X books, like with everything with Original Sin. We went directly from Trial Jean Grey to everything with the future Brotherhood coming back. It's been so serious and crazy. It would be nice if Bendis throws in a couple lighter issues where the original five and the new students could hang out and get to know each other better. There was one issue in All New X-Men where young Hank and maybe young Bobby, I forget, they went to a local carnival. Do you guys remember that?
Oh
And
yeah,
they
yeah.
were chatting it up with the girls at the carnival.
yeah.
And that was just a great issue. Um, and also the one where the new Uncanny X-Men kids were basically plunked in, I guess it was that area in
Oh,
Montana or somewhere where
yeah.
everything is super evolved.
Yeah.
Um, I think we need to keep a couple more fun issues. Everything has gotten so serious this summer and going into this fall. I think Bendis needs to throw some fun at us too.
I think we're gonna get that once the Axis event is over and all that other stuff starts off. I think that's how Bendis will start his next phase of the X-Men books. He'll start it off a little bit lighter. I'd
Yeah.
like to see the all new X-Men group have go bowling
Yes.
with the young kids. Just
With
have
the
them go to a
original
bowling
five.
alley. Yeah, just have them go to a bowling alley. Let them just do whatever gets them. Iceman, like turning the pins in the ice or whatever, and like
Right.
just knocking them over that way. Just silly stuff like that. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think there is untapped comedic potential with young Hank McCoy, young Gene, young Bobby. There's so much more that can be done with them, and young Warren too.
Yeah, well, speaking of Warren, I guess we could make this our last little bit of a topic here. The X-Men are just as much about inner character relationships than the action. So it looks like now we have a new couple, X-23 and Angel. I, I don't know how you guys are feeling about that couple. It's nothing serious as of now, but there's definitely something there. I don't know how you guys are feeling about that relationship. I kind of would have rather see her with Cyclops only because that would have just been really funny on so many levels.
Yes.
Uh, I love X-23, and I have since X-Men Evolution. Okay? I love X-23. Laura is my heart. I love her. She's on my phone right now. I look at her every. That said, uh, having her included into an X team after the whole Avengers Arena business was perfect. That was excellent. Have her
I
included
agree.
all new X-Men onto that particular team was absolutely perfect. Yes, I knew going into it that somehow there was going to be some kind of romantic connection between one of them, but Laura has not had a very good track record with attentions from the men's because you have to remember she is basically the most evolved she's ever been emotionally, which
Mhm.
less evolved than a lot of other people because of her
Mm.
upbringing. So she's right now just trying to understand what romance and these feelings actually are, much less how to proceed with them. She had a little thing with Hellion for a little while there,
Hmm.
Mhm.
ended that with him because she's like, no, I can't deal. I understand this within myself, cannot deal. So we're out. So that was the last time she had any kind of romantic interest. There was Scott flirting with her, which water off the duck's back. I saw there was a whole cover that showed them kissing, and I was like, "What?"
That would have been so funny.
And I'm like, "Okay, that's the Laura that I know. That's perfect." Okay, now with this development of Angel, it does seem in the comic organic the way that it happened. They're just kind of going out for burgers or what have you at this point. I'm not sure that they're going to be a couple, and if they are going to be a couple, I don't know how long it's going to last because of where she's at in her emotional state. I don't know if she can handle a relationship right now. I think she's just coming back from a traumatic experience and she's just learning how to integrate with people, period,
Right.
much less having that connection with one other person. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, but as far as her time frame and emotional, which I've invested a lot in, I don't see it happening very well at all.
I think it's worth noting too that Angel is this version of Angel not so much, but his future is bad. He
Yeah,
hasn't had the best of luck with life either. And it's almost like maybe in some weird alternate world these two may have to find each other. Maybe they are supposed to be together. I don't know, because I'm thinking poor Angel with everything that happened with him with Apocalypse and how now he's basically just this shell of himself. He doesn't remember anything. He's just flying around in the skies, happy go lucky, like nothing ever happened. Doesn't remember Psylocke, doesn't even really remember his own life. So maybe in some weird way these two are supposed to be with each other, and he'll find out about his life and she'll open up to him about what happened to her, and then somehow that whole thing will work. It's such a random pairing to me though. It's so it's nice that Bendis kind of threw a curveball there. He said, well, you guys thought it was going to be Cyclops, but no, it's going to be like the total opposite guy. It's going to be Angel.
Well, we'll see how it goes down, but I don't have a lot of hope. If they do have
Yeah.
it down, I think that they should, and I think that they've been doing a good job keeping with what has transpired with all of the characters and especially Laura. But I think that they should keep on with that. And judging from her trajectory, yeah, not so much, because
Mhm.
people should remember exactly when she was introduced in the Marvel universe where she was at there. That was a dark, dark place. One of the most
Yeah.
darkest place that any character has come from and become a hero from. So her relationships with people is definitely affected.
Mhm.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes down. I'm not against it, but I'm not for it unless it's done well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Hmm. I mean,
Do you guys have any other thoughts on this pairing?
I mean, I agree. I don't have too much hope for it, but I think that they will most likely just be using each other just for
No, no, really, I ain't lying. I got Laura.
comfort.
I love Laura.
That looks awesome.
All right.
Um,
So
I'll say I'll say that of the original five, I feel like Warren is the one that I know the least. I feel like in the comics, I mean, I'm newer to the X-Men books, but I feel like Warren doesn't have as much of a personality. Like we know what Jean is like, we know what Hank is like, we definitely know what Bobby is like, but Warren is just kind of like, we don't really get to see his personality. So I hope that at least in writing him having this fling with Laura, that at least we get to see a little bit more of what Warren's personality is like. And and my final thought is that in the X-Men books, we just haven't seen many romances,
Yeah.
especially at the Jean Grey School. There should be tons of, romances going on. There was a little thing with Bling and Mercury
I was just about to
recently.
mention that. A little thing.
Yeah, a little thing, but it was never developed. So I want to see, future writers, run with Bling and Mercury. I would love to see Hellion and Pixie. That is like my good-looking couple pairing, like
yeah.
dream pairing. Um,
Beyond and Nature Girl.
That would be cool too. That would be a good pairing. But I mean, you have all these characters at the Jean Grey School. You have Armor, Eyeboy, Anole, Sprite, all these people. I think the writers need to start getting more creative with different, even lighthearted romances.
Isn't Noel still in the Jean Grey School, or is he right now at Worthington Industries exclusive?
He's at Worthington Industries, but in the adjectiveless X-Men, he is still at the Jean Grey School, and he's still going on missions with Rockslide and Hellion.
How am I not? Oh, that's true. I remember the Psylocke experiments.
Right, and now they're out in the real field, not just the Danger Room.
Okay, I must be behind on that somehow. I haven't read those. Chimera's doing stuff, and Anolian. What's going on over at Adjective?
Just pick up X-Men 16. It's a really great issue. If you're looking for something that is apart from all the craziness with the Future Brotherhood and the Madness books, I really recommend X-Men 16. I really loved it.
These should be in my pull list. What's going on with my local comic book shop? They're not putting on books on me. Come on now. I gotta check this out. I feel behind.
Should we go around and say our last goodbyes, Jess?
We should.
Oh, she actually glitched out.
Oh no!
Oh.
Oh, we
Yeah.
went along today.
Let's just keep this going until she can find her way back in.
All right.
Now there's one thing I wanted to talk about.
Let's do it, buddy.
Go ahead.
And it's probably most likely has to do with Christopher. I mean, we've seen his powers, but does anyone think he could possibly be immortal? We saw him get his throat cut open by rays, and it looked like he died, and he just came right back seconds later.
Okay. I think that he's as old as he is, which is what, late teens, early 20s in that.
Yeah.
I think he's as old as he is, but sure, now that he's a mutant, he could be immortal from here on out. Why not? That would make sense. I would buy that. If there was like a story 200 years in the future and Christopher Muse is hanging around, I would believe that. Because
I think, yeah, I mean, I thought that his power was to heal others. I do remember what you're talking about, Jadobi, but I thought that mainly his power was to heal others. I really liked the inclusion of those young Uncanny X-Men in the 100th anniversary special, X-Men #1. In that one, we see an adult Christopher Muse and an adult Benjamin Deeds and Eva Bell. So I really hope that those characters do stick around for the next, real life, real world decades of X-Men books.
I agree with you. And I definitely, let's touch upon that because Jadobi, President Cyclops.
Yes.
I saw that, I read that, and I was like, oh man, I bet my man's grooving on that. President Psych.
Can't hate on that.
No. Um, I thought that was interesting. It was an interesting book. It was an interesting post or possible future.
Right.
And I love the, like I said, I love the idea of seeing these new generation X-Men as old hands, and I want to see that in reality too. My problem with the anniversary issue is that I hated the end
Hmm.
because I thought that that was insincere.
I also didn't understand what exactly happened at the beginning of the issue that made Emma vanish and made the mutants start to vanish. I don't know. I didn't read it carefully.
The way I interpreted that is that the Phoenix made him go bye bye,
Okay, that's right. Okay, so it was all Phoenix is doing.
and I didn't like that. I didn't like the motivation of the Phoenix at the end. I thought
Mhm.
that that was just extremely insincere. What? No, I didn't like it.
Yeah, and it
You
painted Jean in a bad light.
Yes, it puts Jean in the bad light, and it puts the Phoenix in a very small, petty area. I mean, what does the Phoenix care about whether or not Scott's ready to lead the mutants? I mean, honestly, this big cosmic being who is in control of just everything in the universe, focusing so much on why it's so important that Scott Summers of the X-Men is ready to lead the country into that just doesn't seem sincere to me at all. So that was my problem with that. But some of the ideas and the way the characters were during that, I did love that.
Jess, I think you're back in. We were just briefly talking about the 100th anniversary special. Um, and we were just saying how we didn't really like how it was the Phoenix being like big bad Jean, obliterating the past, making all the mutants disappear. So we were just talking about that.
Yeah, I that whole thing I had spoken with Jadobi about this a while too. That whole thing bothered me. It was nothing but Jean Grey propaganda.
Yeah.
I mean, it went so far to literally take Emma Frost out of existence.
Right.
It went as far as it could to be a purely pro Jean Grey storyline. Honestly, without going too off topic, all the 100th anniversary issues haven't really been good. At least to me, I haven't enjoyed any of them.
I haven't read any of them but that one, but I kind of hated it
Yeah,
because of
I didn't like it.
Although it is cool to see an adult Christopher Muse, adult Benjamin Deeds. I thought adult Benjamin Deeds looked so cool. No, I'm sorry, adult Christopher Muse looks so cool. He just had a great look.
Yeah,
So it would be fun to see the future iterations of those characters show up in other, possible reality issues if they keep doing more.
I don't know. I probably got cut off before anybody had mentioned it, but while reading that, the way Scott was president, the way that whole thing was going, it started off as almost like this was a version of X-Men: The End, and
Mhm.
it just went into like this whole other area. And when I was reading it, like the first few pages, like, oh, this is good. This is going into this story that I really enjoy, even though it's a very, very sad X-Men story. It's still very good, but it took that swerve.
Yeah.
And I don't, yeah, I don't really have anything against Jean Grey per se. It's just, I thought this was going to be like kind of a story that takes place in the future that was a celebration of the X-Men, and it was just another way to say, hey, he shouldn't be with Emma, and history shows differently.
I'm
Right.
sorry. I love Emma and I love Scott and Emma together or not together, but in proximity. I love Emma existing. No,
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
No. Um, so we've gone about an hour and a half now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any final thoughts on anything X-Men related, now's your chance to get it in before we go off the air for the night.
Just want to say, if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, leave a comment and say hi to us. I'm at Loudly Silent on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook, and would love to hear any of your thoughts on any X-Men stories or characters.
Awesome.
My name is Soup. I like comics. I love the X-Men. These are my stuff. Buy Magneto. Just do it. Just go out there right now, and buy them if you don't have them. And that's where I'm at.
Uh, uh, I, I, it was Shinobi and go support the movement for an anniversary day for Cyclops. He deserves one, and you all know it.
Yes.
Cyclops was right.
Cyclops was
He was
right.
right.
Yes, and Magneto was left.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm Jess Camacho, comic editor over at Geeked Out Nation. You can also see me reviewing stuff all over the internet at this point. I don't ever stop. Um, you can follow me on Twitter at Camacho Jess. I post lots of stuff about comics everywhere, so just follow me on Twitter and we can get in some really good Twitter comic conversation. Make sure you visit the website, www.geekedoutnation.com. We have lots of reviews up there this week with plenty more coming, and we're also ramping up our San Diego Comic-Con coverage. We've got lots of news articles on there, particularly stuff from Image. I believe right now Marvel is doing their big Axis panel, so there will be some stuff coming out tonight about that storyline and the future of the X-Men and the Marvel characters as a whole. We'll post some stuff up on the website when that wraps up. So check out the site. Make sure you like this on YouTube and leave us comments. And if you have like anything X-Men you want us to talk about, you could always comment and suggest that as well. We'll try to do this again in about a month's time. This is planned out as a monthly podcast.
I'm sorry for anything you want me to talk about, people. So if you comment, say, talk about this, I don't care what it is. I'll go there.
Yeah, I mean, just, if there's any X-Men controversy or debate you want us to get into, then, you could always send that. We all have our own little character allegiances.
Yeah.
So we'll be more than glad to get into that. Right now, the video is obviously up on YouTube, and we'll have an audio version for you to download through Podbean very shortly. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching or listening. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.